All right, and we are live. What up, players? Welcome to another episode of Player Life. It is Tuesday, 11th of October here in Tokyo, Japan. So today we have a guest on the show, Jaron Scott. I think I seen Jaron talking with Richard Cooper, and I linked up with him on Instagram. But we don't really know each other, so we're just going to talk about dating as a red pill man in 2022, coming to the end of 2022. So what's up, bro?
Not too much. Just getting my day started here. You're what, 14, 15, 16 hours ahead of me? What time is it out there?
It is 11 p.m.
Yeah,
in Tokyo.
damn. Yeah, what is it here? 9 a.m. in Mexico City. Good old day, FA. So, yeah,
Okay.
we're at opposite ends of the schedule here. I was going to say, I was actually pleased when you reached out because I haven't watched too much Red Pill content lately. It's one of those things where I needed it in my life. I need to upgrade my belief system. But once I got it, I kind of internalized it and then started doing my own thing. And then I came back in, people would invite me and start doing the content stuff. So I remember hearing your name thrown around the space quite a bit back when I religiously followed that type of stuff. So when you reached out and I saw you had the channel, I was like, oh, good. Because there's guys in the space that I want to talk a little more about, like the game or just red pill dating type philosophies with, because I think there's a lot of new area that we can cover that when people get caught up in the tiffs or the back and forth or like more of the dramatic elements in the space, I think that message is lost. But I think there's a lot of new area in the space to where we can push this forward. So I'm looking forward to working with you. Thank you very much for reaching out there.
Cool, man. Yeah. So, like, tell me a bit about yourself. How did you end up in Mexico City?
Yeah, so I actually, so I'm 35 years old. I'm from the U.S., born in Texas, raised in Washington State, spent most of my adult life in California. So I have a bit of a varied background in terms of places I've lived in the U.S., have a lot of experiences there. And really getting into the space, I was never a natural. I was actually an obese kid in high school. So I was the guy that like never got prom dates or anything like that. When I was 17, I lost 100 pounds in a year, started lifting. By about the time I was 18, 19 or so, started figuring out how my body works. And I realized very quickly that that kind of changes things for you. Not saying that you have to be absolutely jacked to get any sort of female attention, but it certainly helps.
Right.
And then at that point, I actually came to Mexico to study abroad. I was going to be here for like 6 weeks to do an intensive Spanish language course. My high school sweetheart with whom I went to college, I had actually gotten into better schools, but I was like, oh, I'll just go to like a subpar mediocre state school. I was kind of blue pill beta plugged in. Followed her to a school that really wasn't that great of a school. And she cheated on me within like the first week or two with two guys of her Russian sorority. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to do this Mexico thing. Came down here the first go around. That was like 2006 time frame. And I was actually recruited to play a little bit of baseball here, which people are
Okay.
thinking like U.S. equivalency college baseball, like D1. It was nothing like that. It was more like a decent high school team. But that gave me the opportunity to explore the country, to enroll as a Mexican student, which saved me a ton of money. I learned the language real quick. And then that was my first taste of Latin America. And I really, really quite enjoyed it. Fast
Nice.
forward, I got out of college, got into the U.S. 9 to 5 corporate grind. Ended up in California where I was making real good money, but could never seem to quite get ahead. And I got real tired of that shit. So I was in the back of my head, I was thinking, God, if I could just go back to Mexico, like I was really happy there, that'd be great. Well, COVID happened, lost my job in California. They closed our beaches, which I was done. Like, how are you going to
Mm.
close a beach in
Yeah,
San
that's not,
Diego? Like, no
that's
one got
crazy.
sick there. So
Mm.
at that point, I was following kind of Aaron Clary stuff, adopting more of a minimalist mindset, which that's how I naturally was. Once I saw the savings starting to go like that in the bank account, I went ahead and just sold everything, threw a duffel bag over my shoulder, ended up in El Salvador to build an outsourced sales team last year for a former corporate client I had, and then eventually decided, you know what, I'll settle in Mexico. Did some exploratory trips. I lived in Guadalajara before. I know a lot of people were going to Mexico City. It's more of a cosmopolitan city. It's like Tokyo. It's absolutely huge. There's never a lack of anything to do or dating opportunities for that matter.
Mm.
So I did a 10-point checklist, things I'm looking for in a city. The dating thing was one of them, but not the top one. You know, you can get girls in any city once you kind of got the skill
Mm.
set down. And then I ended up just landing here, decided that, okay, I don't want to struggle to get ahead like I did in California. I really don't have to work as much on the corporate side as I did in California. I need about 20% of my California income to live the same quality of life here. And as it turned out, I ended up doubling my income and then
Okay.
living on now what's like 10% of my income. So that's working out well for me. I think I'm going to stay here for probably 2 or 3 years. Once I get a couple mil in the bank, then I'll maybe think about going back to the US, maybe looking somewhere else, upgrade my lifestyle. But for now, I just want to put my head down, work, focus on this. Got some other side projects going on, and then just see where things go. I was going to ask you the same thing. It looks like you've been in Tokyo for like, what, 7 years? I know this, your audience probably already knows, but yeah.
I mean, I've been here like 7. I came over in 2015. I was not as, calculated about why I came over here. Like, it sounds like you were very calculated about your life choices.
I'm a bit of a nerd. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just very, I was, just looking to get out of Ireland for a while, for a year or so. And, I came over to Japan to do the whole, just was teaching English at the time. And, it's the easiest way to get into the country. I was only planning on doing it for a year anyway. But I came over here and I really liked it. It was just better in so many ways. They're more interesting, Ireland is a very small country. I mean, it has some good qualities, but it's I definitely don't think Ireland is a good place to live in your 20s or 30s. When if you're trying to spin plates and live any kind of player lifestyle, Ireland is not a great place just because it's such a small country and the population is small, and it's harder to run game in a country where it's like community, like where like even if it's not community, like it's people know each other, even if they're not your friends, they know you to see, like you see the same faces around. So it's really hard to run like game. Like there's definitely no way I could run the kind of game that I live here, that I experience here in Tokyo, in Ireland. And that's more to do with just the logistics and population size. It's not because it's easier in Japan. There's a lot of misconceptions about how easy it is as a foreigner, but just, Japan has 127 million people population. It's rapidly decreasing, but it's still a lot. Ireland has like 6 million. So like, I mean, the capital city, Dublin, is like, it's in the city center, it's like less than 1 million. Like, so I mean, it's just incomparable. I was just really enjoyed living in Japan. So that's why I stayed here. And I'm not really looking to move anytime soon, just because I enjoy what it has to offer. Have you ever been to Japan yourself, or Asia in general?
I haven't. I know most of Latin America. I still have a couple countries way down there, like Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, Chile, that I have to knock off the list. Most of Europe, I didn't make it up to Ireland. So last time I went to Europe, I screwed up and overplanned my trip. And then, of course, met some Irish guys at some point, like, oh, let's go up to Ireland. I'm like, oh, well, shit, I have a flight to Barcelona, or, oh, I got to go to Frankfurt now. So my second Euro trip, I didn't do that. I left it open just 30 days, just arrive and then just kind of go wherever the wind takes me. But I didn't make it to Ireland. I was going to mention, you touched on a really good point. This is something I always try to bring home to guys on my channel is they talk about looks maxing, they talk about geomaxing. Geomaxing is a big thing, but I get the same thing. Guys like, oh, well, you just get laid because you're a white guy in Mexico. It's like, there's a lot of Americans down here and they're not getting laid. There's American neighbors. I see them in the elevator. I hear English. I'm like, oh, hey, cool, bro. Where are you from? Speak English. Not getting laid. They don't have a steady stream of girls coming up and down the elevators the way I do. So yes, there is that factor where like, okay, you're a foreigner, you're a little exotic. For me, it's weird say like I'm a regular American guy to look at myself as being exotic, but you look around and there's just not guys like me here. So gives you a bit of that novelty factor. But then what are you going to do with that? So I get more IOIs here. I get more girls coming up to me, approaching me that indicate more interest to me. But from that point, what are you going to do? Because I've been out with plenty of foreigners down here where they're just completely missing indicators of interest. They have no game at all. And then they go on the expat forums and they bitch. They're like, oh, yeah, it's really hard to date Mexican chicks. Like, no, it's absolutely not. But you have to know what you're doing. But the population density thing is a big thing because in a city of 30 to 40 million people, I'm not a day gamer by any means. If I'm out and about, like if I'm heading to a coffee shop and girls, smacking her lips or pulls her head out of her phone real quick and locks my eyes down and playing with her hair, or you can tell when someone's into you, at least that initial physical attraction phase. Then I'll open her, I'll get the digits, I'll run her through the same sequence. But I do most of my stuff online. And living in a city of 30 to 40 million people. The estimates are always fall somewhere in that range, whether you count the metro or the state of Mexico or what have you. That's a lot of people. So when I go on the apps, I never run out of prospects. And if I tell guys, I check my dating apps in batches. I'll take, 12 hours off, 24 hours off, 42, 72, sometimes even a week off. I open the app and there's inbound messages ready to go. And a lot of them will find their way through right to my Instagram. So I kind of just set up a system taking advantage of the gringo factor, of the GMX factor, but really the population density thing I think is key for me. And I know this because recently I was in the U.S. visiting family. I grew up in a smaller town, West Coast, not on the left coast for any people that are political. Like once you start coming inland, it gets a little more conservative. So in a day, I'd get maybe 3 matches, all of them single moms. One would agree to meet up and then flake. And I'm like, okay, that my game skills didn't change. My attractive level didn't change. It's just because it's such a small area, such a small town that I have a much smaller pool that I'm working with. So I definitely use the numbers in my favor living in Mexico City. And I think Tokyo's got a ton of people too. So I'm curious to see if you've encountered something similar.
Well, the thing about it, I mean, my whole thing is about day game is because, like, I'm not entirely against dating apps. It's just I don't see the need to use them for me because I live in such a dense city and there's so many opportunities to meet very attractive women that I have never really gotten like access to on dating apps. I mean, I'm aware of what you can do to maximize your dating app success, but it bothers me that I have to go and do all that. I mean, and then you're dealing with all the algorithms and like getting. I mean, I've gotten banned off Bumble for some bullshit. Like nothing even.
I've been banned on all of them.
Nothing
shirtless
even
photos.
bad, like,
Bumble doesn't like abs. Who would have thought?
Yeah, it's just garbage. But I mean, for someone like me in Tokyo, it doesn't really make sense for me to use dating apps when you compare the results that I can get from cold approach and dating apps. I mean, if I got the results I could get from day game from dating apps, I would use dating apps. But it's just, plus I enjoy the process of day game, like most of the time. Obviously, sometimes it's frustrating, but I mean, when you get used to it, when you're like, when you make it part of your lifestyle, not so much like going out to do like, hours on the street of cold approaching random women. It's more like, oh, like you said earlier, I'm on the way to the coffee shop or I'm on the way wherever to the gym. You see an attractive girl, you make an approach. You take advantages of opportunities. And when you live in a very dense city with like so many attractive women, it's easier to do that. If I had lived somewhere rural, I would have to use dating apps. So that's why I'm not entirely against dating apps, because in some places, like you kind of need to use them because you don't really see a lot of women in your daily routine. So in those instances, but I think anyone living in this big city should engage in day game somewhat. It should be part of their game set. I mean, if you want to you do it all, you can do, night game, day game, dating apps, like social circle. I never really do utilize social circle because, like, I don't like the shit where I eat. I just don't see, like, unless it's like presents itself to me and it's like there's no other reason to refuse it, but I'm not going to go like hunting things down in my social circle or relying on friends because it's just like I don't need to. And it's like it causes drama and like there's like it's just there's always drama in social circle when you like you're hooking up with someone in one of your friends or whatever. I'm just not into that. I just prefer to go out and find girls myself, and it's just incredible it's incredible what you can do what these women will do when it's like convenient. Like it's like in a somewhere for someone that does day game or is interested in day game, like it's absolutely mind-blowing what some chicks will do when it's like convenient. Like if you go and get their number, you can go ahead and get their number, that's fine, and you like the thing is you might never see them again. But if you were to do an Insta date with them, walk them back to your place, it's shocking. Like, but I know guys in Tokyo that live even more central to me. I'm pretty central, but like they're like some really hardcore day gamers, and they just like they just get laid so much from just like same day lays. They almost never get laid from getting digits. And there's so many ways that, and it's like it's so eye opening. It's so amazing to see stuff like that. And I mean I've done it countless times myself, but a lot of guys can't comprehend that. They can't comprehend that those kind of that kind of thing. And again, it's nothing to do with, oh, you're just a white guy in Japan. No, it's not nothing to do with that. It's, and just to touch on that point, like I'll never get tired of like trying to dispel that myth that you are like that it's easier if you're a white guy in Japan. It's
Most foreigners
literally,
aren't getting laid there either, right? That
it's,
you've seen.
well, I would say there's a large contingent of foreigners that if they are getting laid, they're getting the bottom of the barrel. Like
Yeah, I see that.
it's literally a disadvantage to be a foreigner in Japan. Japan is not a poor country. It's not like it's not like you wherever you go to the Philippines or Vietnam, or you're gonna have they're gonna see you as like an escape, because girls will like fantasize, oh, he's gonna scoop me up and take me abroad, and I'm gonna be his like Cinderella or what, some shit like that. In Japan, it's not like that. They're like, there's plenty of guys in Japan for them, and on top of that, it like a Western looking man is not necessarily, we have this idea, oh, they all want this all women want these masculine men. Japan is like different. Like it's actually like the famous men over here, the models and stuff are much more feminine, and it's like girls like these men. It's different in Japan. It really is. The standard of a handsome man is kind of different. They're much more feminine, so girls actually prefer a different kind of looking guy. And yeah, but I'll just touch on where the myth comes from, and it's very simple. Basically, obviously, Japan attracts a lot of dorks, like a lot of nerds. Let's be honest, a lot of nerds
I was
come
gonna
to
say that. I'm glad you
Japan.
did.
A lot of fucking nerds come to Japan because they like anime, manga, all that stuff, and they come over here and they're like very low quality get dudes. I'm just being real. They're like, they're not very attractive. They're dorks, like so they can come over to Japan, and if they try hard enough and they try long enough, they can get a girl. They might get a girl. They might even sleep around a little bit, but they're not getting anywhere near the hottest girls, and not even they're getting bottom of the barrel most of the time, and it's only a small percentage as well. There's this idea that Japanese girls really like foreign guys. It's false. It's actually false. Like it's only a very small percentage of Japanese girls that like foreign guys, and there's a kind of a derogatory term for girls that like foreign guys in Japan. It's called gaijin hunters. Gaijin means foreigner, hunter. So, and even Japanese people talk about, like, even girls that like foreign guys like despise being called this. They really despise it. So yeah, but so the myth comes from these nerds coming over to Japan and getting with slightly better women than they would back in their home country. Maybe back in America or wherever, Europe, they would really struggle to get a girlfriend. But in Japan, they might be able to get a girlfriend. They might even be able to sleep around a little bit. So they can do slightly better, but they're not getting anywhere near like, there's this idea you can just come over and you're going to get like the hottest girls. And there's tons of hot girls in Japan. Like, I don't even have like so-called yellow fever. I like hot girls no matter what color they are. I like hot
Ditto.
girls, like straight up. But it's that's where there's a sliver of truth to that myth, but in general it's completely false. Most Japanese girls, like, if you're a very high value Westerner in Japan, like, and you're good looking, you have your money right, money muscles game, all that thing, there's still, like, you're still going to be at a disadvantage to a Japanese guy. That's just a fact. Like, it's just, if you come over to Japan, you'll see so many extremely feminine, hot, attractive women, but you'll very rarely see them with foreign guys unless you have like really good game. And I know all about the game in Japan for sure, but like, how would you compare what I've said to where you're at in Mexico?
I've noticed kind of the same thing. I think due to the proximity to the U.S., Latin girls in general are more open to dating American guys, Western guys. Actually, a lot of guys here think that being American, they come down that, oh, I'm American, I'm going to be the top of the class. Well, actually, there's kind of a hierarchy in the dating markets. So actually, amongst white guys, actually girls here prefer more European guys. Canadians always trump Americans, Aussies, Irish, anyone from Europe usually trumps Americans. But as an American, I still do a pretty good job here. But I think in general they're more open to dating foreigners. But if they had the choice, they would prefer to date someone who's the same culture, the same language, that's local to here, who's up on his game. And I've dated into more of the upper echelon of girls before, but a lot of times the retention becomes difficult. So I got to the point in my game down here where I'm like, all right, well, I'm dating the types of girls I want to date. But at the end of the day, it used to bug me when I was real younger. When I was playing ball down here, I was dating a Brazilian girl for a bit. And then one day she got real distant, kind of cold, and then saw that she was dating a professional soccer player. I'm like, okay, well, damn, I can't compete with that. Like, obviously, given the choice between a foreigner who's studying abroad and playing baseball for like a mediocre private college team versus a professional soccer player, well, obviously she's going to take that pick. So I think in general, the same thing happened in El Salvador too. One of my main girls caught her like 4 a.m. She was FaceTiming someone. I was like, who the hell's that guy? Professional soccer player. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to compete with these guys, obviously, because, and especially in that case, I was working in El Salvador last year. Everyone knew that I was going to be gone in a couple of months. I'm just kind of the gringo passing through. And you get that class of people. And the girls are like, okay, well, this is the best I have in the potential male dating market, so I'll go with this. But if like Jimmy the soccer player drops into the DM, then obviously who's going to say no, because he's there, he's established. It's going to increase her social clout and increase her access to her own society. So these are things I understand. So I wouldn't say, I'm definitely not at that tier, but I can tiptoe into that tier and kind of straddle that line, and that's absolutely fine for me. I can still run the volume game there. But yeah, I believe that definitely is a misconception that like, okay, just be a white guy, go abroad, and then you're going to get laid. Well, you're going to have more opportunities to potentially present themselves, but you have to know what to do with it, and you have to know how to manage that relationship, and that still requires game. So that's the constant. I tell guys all the time, if you can't get laid in the US, you're probably not going to get laid in Mexico. You might. I mean, there's the whole pay for play type class down here, but a lot of that's disappearing now that everything's online. Like you'll not so much in Mexico, but in places like Panama or Colombia, you'll meet a regular chick on an app, get her out, and then realize, and then half the night you're guessing, is she a pro? Like, is she going to like try to play an angle here? So you got to be careful with that too. And Mac, I think you touched on that there are gringo chasers down here too. And I speak Spanish, so I'll get them on the phone, get a Spanish conversation going. Ideally, if she speaks little to no English and I'm the one that kind of breaks in the English language for her, that's great. But if a girl comes up and she's speaking perfect English and she has like a British or Canadian accent, you're like, all right, she's been through a few foreigners. So you got to be on the lookout for that too. You have to suss those out real quick. The ones that just want the green card opportunity, or a guy who's staying here, who's doing well. I'm in that class. I make good money in the US, but I live in Mexico, and it's about 20% to live here as it is when I was living in California. So you have to keep your eyes open for those types of girls too.
You're speaking about language there. That's even more exceptionally true in Japan. If a girl speaks good English, even reasonably well, she's definitely 100, almost certainly a gaijin hunter. She likes foreign.
Where else did she learn it? Like everyone, like in the US, we all take Spanish in school, but no one speaks Spanish well. In most of the world, they all take English in school, so they can like kind of understand it. But if they can converse well and hold the attention of a group, then she learned that somewhere, and it probably wasn't from you. It wasn't from TV. It wasn't studying. She wasn't going to the 500 word words.
Study in college, but even at the fact that they study English in college, like, is like they've had some. And there's kind of a cold hard truth about it, is that like Japanese girls that tend to like foreigners tend to be less attractive. Like, they definitely tend to be less attractive than the regular Japanese girls. And it's not like they range from, I'd say that like when we're talking about a gaijin hunter, generally speaking, the best you're going to get is like a 7 out of 10. And it's not like there's any shortage of like 8s, 9s, and 10s. Japan is like, when you come, like, you have to really come here, because before I came to Japan, I had really no idea about how attractive Asian, Japanese chicks were. But like really, when you come here, like the femininity, the way they dress, the fashion, it's like super sexy, like feminine. They're slim. They're beautiful faces. It's crazy. It's kind of a culture shock, but it's a pleasant surprise. But yeah, like when they can speak English, it's generally like they've kind of been like rejected, or they've had some trauma with Japanese guys, or like, but it's just different, But another point I was trying to make is, I think you touched earlier that, when sometimes chicks come and approach you, you get IOIs or whatever, you know, whenever, I mean, that doesn't really, I mean, I get some IOIs, but in Japan, certainly it's very rare for me to get approached or like by a chick. And I have absolutely no problem with that, because I don't consider it part of female nature to approach men. I don't think it's really, because it takes like, especially Japanese chicks, they're just not like, they don't have the balls to do it. Like, I mean, and some of the hottest chicks I've ever gotten with didn't even really see me coming. I mean, they were looking at, most chicks are looking at their phones, or they're just not. I don't know if you've noticed, but do you think like chicks just aren't really aware of their surroundings? I don't know if it's a human,
Nope.
like, it's like, as men, we're innately more aware of our environment, because we evolved that way. But chicks walk around looking at their phones, like not really looking where they're going. But like, I'm just like keyed into like where I'm going at all times. But whenever whenever a chick approaches me, it's usually she's not the most attractive, and it doesn't happen that very, very often anyway. So, but I honestly don't have any problem with that, because it's, as a man, I see it as my role to like approach women. And it's like, if I was waiting for chicks, I think guys that wait for chicks it's the worst strategy, in my opinion, because it's like, you're going to be waiting a long time. I mean, I would be close to being a virgin if I waited for chicks to come to me and make the first move. And like, you know what I mean? And I'm far from a virgin, like, so it's just a thing where you have to go and you have to go after it as a man.
You touched on a good point. Even when I was fat, and Rich Cooper and I talk about this, when I was fat, I was of the mindset that like, okay, no one's attracted me, no girl. And then to be honest, most of the girls I did go after, not only would they shut me down, it would almost be like humiliation type. They're like, ew, like what, who the hell would ever date you? Oh, gross. Like, no. Like, okay, you could just say no, that's fine. But even years later, looking back, I'll have girls that, now obviously I've far exceeded them in the sexual marketplace or whatever. But girls that back in the day, I thought I was invisible on the radar. I have had a handful of girls, even back to when I was fat. They're like, hey, I liked you the whole time, but like you never made a move. And that's because this negative self-talk that I had in my head, like, oh, who the hell would date me? Because I probably was going for girls that, I don't like this term, out of my league, but I'm going for like the head cheerleader, and I'm 100 pounds overweight. Like, okay, that's probably not going to happen. It's not like the movies, but there were like decent girls that like, hey, I liked you all through high school. I liked you. Why didn't you approach me? And then I realized, I think you touched on that too. I noticed that even down here, that there'll be a lot of girls. I'll approach them. I'll make the move. I'll set everything. They'll come over, like even after I've slept with them a couple of times, and they'll still be kind of like, hey, like, Jaron, just let you know, like, I really like you, but like, I still can't believe that you like me, or like, why'd you pick me, or why would you be into me? So I think a lot of guys forget that a lot of girls are insecure too. They might be interested in you, but they're expecting you to make the move. And then a lot of times they're disappointed if you don't. I've lived with attractive females back when I was in college, had a big house down here with like 8 bedrooms, and had a bunch of foreigners just kind of coming in and out, because it's real hard to rent apartments here. They require all sorts of legal stuff. And like, all right, well, there's another foreigner. He's got this big house. It's just, whatever cash. So like, we had some attractive European girls, American girls, other girls from other Latin countries come through. And I'd see time and time again, they'd go out, they'd doll up, they'd spend like all day preparing, getting themselves hyped up, kind of like guys do too. A lot of times when you're younger. And then they'd come home and be like, hey, like, Allie, what the hell happened? Like, oh, what happened to that guy you were talking to? He's like, he didn't make a move. He didn't pull the trigger. Like, I wanted to bring him home. I would have gone to his place, and I saw this time and time again too. So that kind of upped my inner speak when it comes to games, seeing in real time the other end of the equation, what girls are going through. Like, hey, relatively attractive, goes out, gets the attention from guys with free drinks all night, but she wants to have fun too. She's 20, 21 years old. Drinking age in Mexico is 18, so like that's not 21 like the U.S. for U.S. audience there. And like, hey, like we're young, we want to go have fun. We're kind of uninhibited, living life fun and fancy free, but these guys aren't making the damn move. So when I say that girls present themselves to me, like they every now and then they will come straight up, or they're like lock eyes with me at the gym, and I get like the 3 count, and then I'm thinking, all right, I got to approach. But a lot of times it's a lot more subtle. And when you start getting some volume, and you start getting your notch count or your lay experience up, then you can start to not even really intellectually realize these things. I have a video on my channel, like 50 IOIs. That's a good starting point. But after a while, you can kind of feel it. You can kind of intuit things that like, okay, like her energy is into mine, and our energy fields are meshing together, or maybe she's starting to hover a bit more. At the gym, I see this a lot. Like, no matter what I'm doing, then this girl's always kind of in my peripheral view. Then okay, let's go ahead and just strike up a conversation. And a lot of times it's not even to get the number. It's just a hey, this is I'm like you. I don't like to shit where I eat, but I have a gym pass where they have like, I don't know, like 50 different gyms here. So I kind of rotate my gyms. I change my schedule all the time. It's not for game purposes. It's just to kind of kill the monotony in my day. Yeah, there's so much population density within a kilometer or two. I think I've got 5, 6, 7, 8 gyms that I can go to with the same chain. So I'll do stuff like that. Open her up, talk to her like, hey, yeah, you come here often. I'm always starting with logistics in that sense, but I'm not really trying to push for the date. I'm just trying to feel her out. And then in that conversation, if I notice, or if I can feel the energies there, then like, hey, go ahead and, shoot me your Instagram, your WhatsApp. And it seems like we're both in the neighborhood. We'll find a good time. We'll meet up. Usually I get them straight to the house. If not, then I'll do like the coffee date first. But a lot of times I eliminated the coffee date last summer because I'd meet the girls on the coffee date. We'd order the coffee, and then they're like, hey, let's get it to go. I'm like, okay, well, the girls are suggesting coming straight to my place. Then I can just remove this step entirely. And to touch back on
they're suggesting to get it to go.
Yeah.
Wow.
I used to, but I think I'd lead the conversation. So especially like on the online dating thing, in my description, I say exactly what the call to action is, what the offer is. Like, hey, it's usually like 420 snacks and snuggles. That's like my shutdown sequence for the day, about 8 p.m. Smoke a bit, start eating. I make like healthy foods, and then I'll put on a record or play guitar or something. So that's how my day's structured, and I just fit them right into that. What I was going to mention with online dating, you have to go through additional steps in the online dating versus day gaming. So online dating, you have to pique the interest, you have to get the digits, then you have to plan the meetup. And a lot of times there's a lot of back and forth. Can you do it today? No. Can you do it next weekend? Oh, hey, my dog got sick. Oh, hey, my grandma died. Oh, hey, something come up. Oh, I got to go to town. And then you kind of volley the schedules back and forth to get that initial face-to-face interaction. And for me, the hardest part is to get her face-to-face. Once she's face-to-face, I have no doubt in my mind I'm going to close this deal, because you kind of know what to do once you get more experience there. That's one thing I do like about day gaming is you eliminate all those front end steps. You have her into your physical space. You can feel her in real time, not like, physically feel her, but you can feel her energy, feel her emotion, vibe her out. You can adjust in real time. You have a captive audience, you have her attention, and you can pique her interest a lot more. Even if it's not like an Insta date or like first meetup close, you still have a leg up on the guy who's been texting back and forth, because at that point you're still just an avatar. So after watching your stuff, I am going to incorporate more day game into my life, because the volume is a lot lower than online dating, but my conversion rate's a lot higher, and I can feel her out in real time. It doesn't happen often, but it sucks when a girl shows up to your house. You're like, oh, she's kind of boring, she's kind of dull, or like, I don't know, I'm not really that into her. She's here, and like a lot of times, and I know girls do this, but I feel like a girl in this situation, I'm like, all right, I'll just give her a pity lay, because I don't want to like crush her self-esteem. I mean, I'm clearly more attractive than her. I've got higher SMV. I don't want to like crush this poor girl, but she's not what I was expecting from what I saw on the Instagram, the dating profiles. With day game, you can suss that out in real time and know like whether we want to go forward or not.
Are you talking about home deliveries? They just show up at your house?
Yeah. They come right over.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, that's not something that, I mean, I've done it, but it's not very often. I mean, for like same day lays, I've done countless times, but that's like, the thing is, I'm not using like, I've used dating apps in the past, but it's just the kind of success I've had from day game with dating apps. You can't really compare it. I think one of the best dating apps I've ever used, and it wasn't even a dating app, was it was called Hello Talk. It was a language exchange app, and I used that initially when I came over to Japan. And I think they changed the settings on it, and I just stopped using it years ago. But I mean, it was
a lot of girls here use that too.
Yeah. Had phenomenal success on that, and then I just kind of got bored of it, and like it's still not as good as it still doesn't compare to what the kind of scenarios I've been able to get from day game though. You know?
Yeah, I was going to interject the point here. Any app is technically a dating app. I've gotten laid on Airbnb, being both a host and the guest. Couch surfing, that's an old one. Like even Facebook Marketplace, where someone comes to buy something and the chick shows up and she's kind of into you. Like she's already seen your house. She's already met you. She already knows like you have some kind of money or like you've got good shit. It happens very, very rarely, to be honest. Like you're not pulling volume like you're on Tinder, Hinge, Bumble, Seeking. But any app technically can be a dating app if you understand or if you recognize the opportunity. I think even this last weekend didn't end up going through with it because I follow your rule. I don't shit where I eat. But in one of the expat groups here in Mexico, some chicks like, oh, I have an extra room open, looking for a roommate. It's like, it's like, okay, I recognize that view. Like, all right, it kind of looks like my place. And then I'm reading through the description and I left a public comment like, hey, it looks like we're neighbors. I was like, hey, I'll second that. It's a fantastic location. It's quiet. It's safe. Like super secure buildings, just a great place to live, and it's a good value. Like definitely hit this chick up. And then she DM'd me and she's like, oh, I see you smoke. Let's hang out this weekend. And really cute Colombian chick. I'm like, okay, well that's Facebook Marketplace, or it's like an expat group within Facebook Marketplace, or it's one of the foreigner groups or something like that. But like, all right, like I wasn't looking to potentially create a lead out of this situation. I just thought, I recognize that place. Howdy neighbor. Yeah, it's a good place. Check out this ad. And so going through life, just creating opportunities for yourself. But in general, yeah, any app can technically be a dating app if you look at it that way.
Yeah. But I was just reminded myself of something I wanted to mention. Just when you mentioned the professional soccer player that you couldn't compete with, I have an interesting story about it, just a quick story about a soccer player. But I was walking back to my station. This happened last year, but it was an interesting story. So as I was passing this girl, she was with her friends, and she gives me this mad IOI, quite a very like turned around double take kind of thing. And I just doubled back and ran up to her and exchanged Instagram real quick. Like it wasn't even a minute. We barely even like I said, what's your name? Got her Instagram. Said, I'll hit you up. It was literally like in and out. And I ended up just arranging a date with her, a bit of back and forth, arranged a date with her. There was no usually when I arrange a date, I always 100% of the time I try and get them to come to my area, my local train station. And if they don't come if they're not willing to come, that's them basically saying that they're not down DTF on the first date. It's not that you can never get them back to your place, but it's like the chances of getting them to
much harder
when they don't when they don't play ball is just less. But this girl, she didn't ask why I wanted to meet there. She didn't ask what we're going to do. She didn't ask any of that. This all tells me that there's a high probability that, I'm going to get laid, but it's never 100%. Obviously it's like, anyway, she came through, met her at the station. She like puts her arm around, like her body language tells me I don't even need to sometimes I decide when I meet them, like whether
when you first greet, you can tell like how tight the hug is, how long they hold it. Here they kiss on the cheeks, even with COVID. Like if they do the double, you can tell like that first physical interaction.
So I kind of decide then and there, do I need to take this girl for a drink or a coffee first, just to break, kind of ease her in and let her know that I'm not a weirdo, or let her basically make her feel comfortable. But this girl was just like, I knew she was DTF. Like just the way she put her arm around me, like didn't ask where we're going. So I walked her straight to my place, took her home, like just nailed her like for hours, and like, just chatting with her. And I'm like, so I just asked her, so do you have a boyfriend? Sometimes I just asked them. Like I had no indication that she did.
A lot of times they do.
I don't know why. I think I just asked her straight out, and she said, oh yeah, I do. And she's like, oh, I feel so bad. And she started talking about him, and I was like, oh, so why do you cheat often? And she was like, yeah, sometimes. and I was like, well, so why do you cheat on him? And oh, he's just too nice. So I started asking like a bit more about him, like, how's he too nice? Can I see a photo? Is he a foreigner? She's like, oh yeah, he's a foreigner. Turns out
Oh
this
yeah.
guy was like a professional like soccer player in some Japanese league, like a foreigner that plays professional, gets paid to play. I don't know in what league or anything, but she showed me his Instagram. It's a verified account. Like he's a professional. Like this guy was objectively better looking than me. He has all the status, but I always remember, like she said, like he's too nice, and it's just like, oh man, like I love when like it's just funny when like red pill truths get confirmed in real life again and again and again and again. You see them being confirmed in real life. All these truths that we talk about, like as red pill men, they're all true. Like they're all like legit. Like it is so true. Like he's too nice. He's too, he doesn't decide things, and she wasn't about it. But it's
And
hilarious.
they'll say they feel bad, but they really don't. Like a lot of girls get off. A lot of girls get off on the whole cucking thing. I
Yeah.
found myself even before I found Red Pill, like formally learned game, like just by virtue of being a foreigner and playing ball down here. Like we'd go on the road. I went to a really good school here too, so I'd have like little groupies show up and they'd hold like little signs and shit. And so I had my opportunities. Again, it goes back to recognizing opportunities and knowing what to do with them. Like I didn't really do anything on my end. I just built a life that was interesting that garnered female attention at that point when I first lived down here. And so even back in the day, and I remember I used to complain about it. Like I used to be a serial monogamist before. I had that whole fantasy. I'm going to marry a girl and move her out to the country
Okay,
and have a
until
bunch of
what age
kids.
were you a serial monogamist? I'm just curious.
I'd say probably 18 to no, take that back. Early 18 to 23, I was living here and playing ball. So it was probably from like 23 to 27. It was probably afterwards, after college. I'm like, okay, well, what do I do now? I'm out of college. Time to settle down. Got married at 27, divorced at 29, and that's when I started finding the red pill, and then just not going to do that anymore at all, because the way I structure my dating life, I realized, well, if I don't give commitment, then I actually get better behavior out of the girls in my life, and I can have multiple longer term relationships. And any one of those individual relationships is much higher quality than any of my previous 100% two-way monogamy relationships. There's a lot of, I think, and half of those the girls cheated, and half of those is just like, hey, I want to go somewhere else in life, and the girl just wants to settle down or stay in the town we're in at the time or whatnot. So I don't really do that model anymore. But I noticed even way back in the day when I did approach dating from like, okay, I want like a long-term serious relationship, that a lot of these girls, and I would complain about it, a lot of these girls, we'd start to get to know each other. Like things are starting to escalate in terms of like severity or more of like the commitment aspect of the relationship. And then it usually happened because you recognize patterns when you start putting in the numbers. The group like, hey, let me invite you out to lunch, or hey, let's go here, I'll pay for you, or hey, let me come to your house real quick, I need to talk to you about something. And it was never good news whenever they would present it that way. And it was usually, and I'd always ask, so I got to the point where I'd ask them, because it happened so often, like, okay, like boyfriend, husband, girlfriend, whatever, like kids, what is it that you're getting at here? And a lot of times like, oh, I have a boyfriend or I'm married. So I don't ask them anymore, but I know that a lot of girls that come into my life at some point, you just kind of know, like you said, in your case, you're just like, I don't really care either way. If a girl makes herself available, she's available. Whatever other commitments or relationships she has, that's none of my business. And I take the same approach. Oh, you're seeing other girls? Like, yeah, it's pretty obvious I'm seeing other girls, but it's none of your business. Like, I'm not going to throw it in your face. I'm not going to make it a part of your business. I expect the same, but you still, having gone through those experiences earlier in my abroad dating experience, you kind of just know in the back of your head, like, all right, this chick's got a boyfriend or something. I had a girl text me, what was it, yesterday, the day before, big long paragraph text, like, hey, I really like seeing you. Like, you're foreign, you're super hot, you're exciting. Like, I enjoy our physical time together. She's like, but just got to let you know that, I'm in an open relationship. It's not my boyfriend. It's actually my husband. So I don't know. I'm starting to catch feelings for you. Maybe we should back off. And I just told her, I was like, hey, that's cool. Thanks for letting me know. Just, let me know when you change your mind. Let me know when you want to see us again. I definitely enjoy the physical aspect too. And just kind of keep it at that. And really what you're doing, you're just negotiating the terms of the relationship. I know you can't negotiate desire. The desire is obviously there, but you can structure the relationship and set the expectation as, okay, here's how it's going to look moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these girls are dealing with multiple guys. I think in this day and age, like the best case you can hope for is that she's maybe like I don't really even care, to be honest, because I'm personally I'm not looking for like any kind of long-term relationship at the moment. I'm just enjoying spinning plates. But the best you can hope for, if you are a guy that's looking for a relationship, is that she's only texting multiple guys. That's like the bare minimum. Like the worst case scenario
That's
is
what I
like
hope
she's
for too.
banging
Yeah.
multiple guys.
She's
Like,
talking to multiple guys, but I always tell
definitely
them,
talk.
she'll say like, oh yeah, I've been, a lot of times girls will ask like, oh, how's your experience on the apps, or what's your dating life look like? And I'll ask her too, like, hey, when was your last serious relationship? Oh, I broke up 6 months ago. I was like, all right, yeah, we had like some one night stands or whatever. Oh yeah, I met a guy on Tinder or what. Like like even in Mexico, they'll have like one or two or something. And then when the girl starts liking you, usually I'll just tell her like, hey, I don't care who you slept with before me, but like since we've slept together, I will be the guy that you've last slept with at all times. And if at any point that changes, then you're out of the rotation, or or she's just a FWB or like one night stand type thing, or she won't get further investment from me. At least that's kind of the boundary I set there.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're not overly investing, and you have the right expectations, and you're setting the boundaries. Yeah, but I mean, one of the things with dealing with when you're doing actually, before I ask that, I was going to ask you, what app do you have the most success on in where you're at, like Tinder, Hinge, which
It's
is it?
It's Tinder for me, just because it has more market adaptation. I know that Bumble got pretty big here, but I keep getting banned on Bumble, and it's a pain in the ass to set up the
It's
accounts.
ran by a feminist, I believe. It's
Yeah, they
like
don't like.
super. Mm,
Yeah, they don't like shirtless pics. I guess is the thing. Whenever I get banned, I always try to make it like a social thing, or I'll do a video on my YouTube channel about that, and in the comments like, why'd I get banned? Because they never tell you. Like
mm,
no girls in those apps have bad experiences with me. I've never had a single incident in my dating career where like a girl
mm.
comes over and she like freaks out. She's like, "Oh my god, who the hell are you? I don't feel safe." Like stranger danger. That shit never happens in my dating experiences, because again, I vet them higher up in the funnel to make sure that
Mm.
like she's
I
vetting you to
mean,
see if you're a weirdo or not. But I'm trying to make sure, like, is she a weirdo? Is she a prostitute, a drug addict, a tranny,
now
like whatever?
you can get banned just for disagreeing with the chick. If the
Yep,
chick doesn't like you, she can hit report button. And
yep.
if you get more than one report, they'll just ban you straight up. Like, I mean, that's
I've
pretty much what
started
happened to me. Just like and it's partly my fault, but you still shouldn't get banned for
because
like
you're being direct, and
yeah.
like, and a lot of these girls don't like that, especially on Bumble. Like you said, it's like a
Mm,
feminist developed app. So yeah, Bumble is
mm,
always Bumble's the best for me, but it's such a pain in the ass from like a technical standpoint to like manage the app and constantly have to recreate profiles. So
mm,
Tinder's just my heavy lifter. It's got more market adoption down here. I believe last time I checked, Bumble was only available on iOS in Mexico. So you kind of you restrict your dating pool to girls that are in the social class where they can afford like however much they cost, $1,500 iPhone. So that severely limits your dating pool. Whereas Tinder is just any device, even desktop version, you'll get girls on it. So there's a much bigger pool on Tinder. Seeking arrangement some, but I never like that, the notion in the back of your head knowing that she's going to bring up money at some point, or if she doesn't
right.
bring up money, you'll get the girls that like they're legit solid girls, but like they're just kind of from a lower class, and at some point they're going to have an emergency, and then you're going to feel real bad for them. Or if you set the hey, we're meeting each other because we actually like each other. Well, at some point that if her dog gets hit by a car or something, that she's going to go on the app and prostitute herself. So I think I re-upped like a month or two ago for like 3 months at a time. I always let the account expire, and then they'll send you emails like 50% discounts, 70% discounts if you like buy months at a time, and you save a lot of money there. So I re-upped a couple months ago, but I think I'm going to let it expire because I don't like in the back of my head knowing that there's an alternative angle here. Like she's not all about getting to know me and like letting our relationship, one of many relationships, blossom naturally. There's that angle that she wants to get compensated to. So I'd like to
Mm,
eliminate that
yeah.
from my world.
I mean, I know I know a guy that he was bragging to me about one of the girls he was banging, like, oh, he's like, show me a photo, and he met her on Seeking Arrangement, and obviously, I was just like, shit, man, I met her on Bumble and I
Bro.
banged her. But the
Oh
funny
yeah.
thing was, he
They're
was
on
kind of
multiple apps
he
too.
was
That's a good
butthurt as
point.
fuck. Yeah, he was butthurt because like she wouldn't see him because he wouldn't pay her, and I fucked her for free. Like, so it
Yep,
was like, yeah. I mean, yeah, I've never actually used seeking, but I mean, I've heard that you can, salt them. Uh,
you can. It's
yeah,
pretty easy. Yeah,
yeah, but I mean, it's pretty much just soft prostitute. Like it is. Like
it is.
they are
Yeah.
like essentially hookers. Like let's be real. Like because they're not on
What
it.
I
Like I mean, you know.
what I look for on there, I'll tell guys if you get into seeking thing, because if you go on there, for example, you can sort, you can look at new users like by like date profile created, and a lot of the savvy girls, guys do this too. They have like multiple profiles or recreate new ones so they can reset the algorithm, get like a new batch of matches and whatnot. But if you see a girl, she's been on there for like 7 years, like she's a pro. I mean,
Oh yeah.
she's logging in daily. She's been on there for 7 years.
Mm.
I'll look for like the girls, like new users. She created the profile today. She's like 18, 19-year-old chick. She has like the cell phone covering her face and all of her photos. She's like, you can tell like just by her body language, she's kind of insecure. I'll get those girls real quick. I'll get them off and I'll get them off the app. Because when you meet them in real life, they're usually a little more conservative. Like, oh, I just wanted to check it out, see what it was. My friends were telling me about it. And in their head, they're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to get like all expenses paid trips to Dubai and like 5-star resort stays in Cancun and the finest in Mexico City dining. And a lot of times I've heard feedback from the girls, these types of girls are like, yeah, all the guys on here are losers. And like, it turned me off and it's disgusting. Or I met up with a guy and he scared the shit out of me and I closed my profile. So when I have success in terms of the girls that I like, it's usually those. It's the new members. It's the younger ones that don't have experience on the app, and they usually get off pretty quick. But if there's girls that have been on there for years and years, then they're always trying to play that angle. And I do have success in them every now and then. Like, oh, I've been here for 7 years. She usually has an OnlyFans too. So she works in that attention or like that sex for compensation type industry. But every now and then they'll cross over and like they'll come over for a lay. Like, I remember years ago when I had my first OnlyFans girl, or even before that, I lived in LA for a bit and dated a porn star. I thought like, oh my God, I'm dating a porn star. Well, a lot of these girls are porn stars. Like
Yeah.
they're girls that
Not
don't
that
have
big a
shit
deal
going
anymore.
on. They can't make money any other way, so they have to sell their pussy. Like we have words for that in the English language, and the words are accurate. Like they're not these high class, like super awesome desirable chicks. Like they're usually the bottom of the barrel. So but years ago, I'd meet girls on Seeking, the first like OnlyFans girl, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so cool now. I got my game to a point where I can get an OnlyFans girl. To now, we're like, there's so many OnlyFans girls after me. I'm just like, yeah, you're kind of pathetic. So I think Seeking is like a lead source. I'm gonna cut that out entirely because that's not the class of women that I personally enjoy.
I mean, it's, OnlyFans girls, they're a dime a dozen, but a lot of girls get very sorely mistaken about,
They make no money, most of them.
because they think they can just, they have no idea how to market it, or they get this idea that they can just put some nudes behind a paywall and guys are going to show up and pay. Guys will show up and pay, trust me, but it still involves, still have to market it, and still they have to put out a lot of free content.
It's the weirdo stalkers that show up and pay, and usually it's not the thousands or tens of thousands they imagine. They'll get like 7 followers. They're selling subscription for $7 a month. Like, congratulations, you're making $50 a month, and your business is all over the internet. And like, there's only weirdos that are following you.
Yeah. The way chicks make money off OnlyFans is that they put out a ton of free content, and they get like fans. Basically, they build up a subscriber. Yep. So it's not, the guys aren't paying for pictures of pussy. They're paying for the exclusivity of like. So
Yep.
the girls don't realize that they've to put out tons of free content like every day, like be like advertising it basically, and then they get more subscribers through that, not through like just having it all behind. Girls think they can just have it all behind a paywall. No one's going to see this. Their parents aren't going to see it. No, unfortunately, if you want to make money on OnlyFans, it has to be out there. You got to put your ass out there on the internet. That's just the way it is. But
and they use Twitter a lot, I've noticed. So if you go like for the OnlyFans funnel, if you go like, you find them on the dating app, you'll have like some banter back and forth. You go to Instagram, either they have a link tree or they will have the Twitter. You click on the Twitter and it's just all, and a lot of them, it's semi-revealing, or they'll have some nudes on there. And then, like you said, people pay for the access. So
Mm.
I do know, like, there's a girl I dated here for a while. She was on like the Mexican equivalent of Survivor, the reality show. It's called, I think it was called like La Isla here years ago. And she has an OnlyFans. So like the way she was successful, and I've noticed this with OnlyFans girls, if they have a following already, if they're already like semi-famous, like maybe B, C, D-list type pseudo celebrity, and then they launch an OnlyFans, then they can do well. So she does pretty well, but she was able to date me because me just having a regular US job with a good salary, I do a lot better than she does, just because of the cost of living type differences here. But she did really well, but she had to work. It was a full-time job. She had to like plan a content production schedule, much like I'm trying to do with my channel now. And and then she had to do at least weekly, like a live stream to where guys can come in and she'd do stuff or whatnot. And I've dated a few of them. It's funny. Like I'll go to the bathroom, like, oh, I got to get on a call real quick. I come out and she's like posing like against the window or like doing like sexy shit on the couch. And I'm just like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, I have to respond to my fans. I'm just like, it's so weird just kind of watching it from the outside. Like, okay, well, I plan content too, but I'm a little more academic about it. Like, okay, what's trending? What should I talk about? What are people asking me about? Where do I want to take my brand? And these chicks are just like, trying to get like the perfect ass shot over the corner of my couch. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it says a lot about the state of how desperate men are. Like it's really crazy out there. It's gonna get worse. It's just gonna get worse and worse.
It is
snowballing until like it's just guys have there's no bottom for guys. It just keeps going. They just keep degrading themselves more and more.
You're gonna have the haves and have-nots of the dating market,
right? It is what it is. Says Jaron, being down in Mexico, have you heard the Cancun girls' trip stories? Same days lays near the resort would be easy from all the trip stories I've heard.
Oh, I have a story. In 2008, me and some of my guy friends, they were from other foreign countries, European, and then some other Latins. I think there's some Peruvians, Cubans. I had a good Colombian friend, and we were all going to go to Havana, Cuba. And during that week is when they announced like the plan Mexico, when George Bush's whole cabal came down and they're like, hey, we're going to create a civil war in Mexico because all we have to do is attack the cartels and drugs will go away. That was a terrible, terrible idea. So that weekend, previously Americans could go to Havana. They just wouldn't stamp your passport. They'd give you like a little slip and then you just throw the slip away when you came back to Mexico. Well, with the whole political event in Merida, I was flying out of Merida, Mexico. They wouldn't let me board the plane. So all my European and other Latin friends boarded the plane to Cuba for like an 8-day trip. I was like, okay, well, shit, what do I do? Well, some girls from my university, they were mostly American. I think there's an Irish girl and a German girl or two. They're like, hey, well, we have this big place in Cancun. We heard you couldn't go to Cuba. Just ride the bus. It was like 2.5 hours across the peninsula to Cancun. Meet with us. I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah, I'll do that. That sounds fun. Like, and me, I think I was like 19 or 20 years old. Like, oh, me in Cancun with like 8 chicks. This is going to be awesome. It was a fucking nightmare because I had to play babysitter the entire trip. Every single girl there hooked up with multiple guys. Most of the guys were not the types of guys that I like. I thought that they were decent chicks, but after that, I'm like, oh my God, like I would never consider dating any of these girls, which I like foreign girls anyways. And every single girl on that trip, even like the nice conservative girl from Arkansas he was engaged for a long time boyfriend, and she's just down here studying abroad, and she's gonna go home and marry and be in the house of Jesus. Like even that girl just got fucking turned inside out on this trip, and I had to save a couple of girls. There's one girl, she's like, oh, I met this Israeli like yacht captain or something, but the guy ended up being some weirdo schizo. So she called me. She's like, come save me. I'm at this pier. Come get me off this boat. I'm like, I'm in Mexico. I don't want to go poking around random boats that are fucking
Captain
dogs. It's exactly that. And then finally, so for the 8-day trip, I think there's 8 girls, 8-day trip. At one point I had to save like every single girl. And the last day I was like, you know what? I'm tired of Cancun. I went to Isla Mujeres. And then I met a girl actually from Mexico City, and ended up getting the same day lay with her. I was like, okay, well, at least I got some fun too, but never again. 2008. So I was born in 87. So no, I would have been like 20 or 21. It was right before my birthday. So I was 20.
The reason, like, if you weren't as naive, you were really young then, and you were.
Oh, I'd never do that now. Yeah. It's a
like,
nightmare.
If you did that now, wouldn't you be banging all those chicks, like having crazy, like, because I know if I was in a situation like that when I was 21, I'd be like real naive, probably doing the same thing you did. But if I went to that now, I'd be like, dude, like it would just be like, because I'm just gonna shoot my shot, and I'm not gonna hide the fact that I'm trying to bang them, and I would just be having a good time, and they would.
Well,
Yeah.
with the group dynamics too, I believe I'm starting to do some stuff with Renegade Wingman. He's one of Rich's guys, and I hung out with him in LA a couple of weeks ago, and so he does more of the social type game, and he's got it down to a science. We both went we started off like a model party, then we went to like some upscale nightclub. We both went 2 for 2 that night, and I was like, oh, like it's fun hanging out with other guys that can game, because I'm not a night game guy. Like I don't have much of a social game. I do mostly online dating, but again, out and about, I can get same day lays. I've got a story for you here at the end too. And so this guy, I'm like, okay, cool. But he told me, he's like, the social dynamics of it. He said, usually I think it's the rule of 7 or so. And when I was in college, I was in real good shape. And my brother was a bodybuilder before he joined the Marines. So he was doing some male stripping. And every now and then, like, hey, do you want to be my security? You just got to make sure you stay sober, you drink, you collect the money, make sure that no guys come up, like very basic type rules. And then like ensure that the interaction is going on, that the girls are all having fun. But I noticed when I was younger, it's like, seems like, well, like once you hit that magic 7 number, the girls start competing for you. If there's one guy and 7 girls, it's like a whore off competition. They're trying to compete for your attention. And ultimately, how do you get a guy's attention? Well, you let him put his pee-pee inside of you. So I noticed this when I was younger, kind of sat on it in the back of my head. And like, okay, yeah, like I'm a nerd. So I'm like, all right, it's probably just a bunch of bullshit. And this guy, Josh, is like, no, it's like the rule of 7. Like once you get 7 chicks, the whole social dynamic changes. So nowadays, having seen that in front of my eyes, we went to like this model photo shoot event. So there's maybe like 5 guys and like 40 models. Like, okay, like we're all getting laid if you know what you're doing. And I found that out very, very quickly. Just kind of sat back doing my own thing. Hey, some girl comes up. What are you doing? Like, I'm just enjoying the sunset. Like, just really enjoying the scene. It was call time was early. It was a pretty intense shooting day. It was hot as shit. And I'm just sitting by the pool enjoying myself. It's like, want to take a seat? And she's like, sure. She sat on my lap. And, that was the first lay that night. But I think in the social game, the rule of 7, and it could be more, like 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever it is, whatever that magic number is, to where the girls all of a sudden they put their attention on you because they're trying to outcompete each other. They don't really care about you, but they want to get a leg up on their female friends, and girls are really competitive amongst each other. So now looking back, if I were in that situation, yeah, I probably would have had a very good time. I've got to the point in my game where I can identify the girl who's down for other chicks, and then I'll play. I will go to nightclubs, do bottle service, take my girl, and then we're actively recruiting other chicks that night. And I notice when I do the nightclub game and I bring a girl who's bi, I can normally pull one or 2 new girls. So
it's incredibly
that's where I'm at now.
Yeah. It's incredibly powerful to have a chick with you that is down fully for a threesome. Though it's almost easier to get laid than it is by yourself. Like it's crazy. Like, because girl, you're just more trustworthy. All pre-selection, all that stuff. It's like, it was shocking for me the first time I like tried that out with a girl that was fully on my side to do threesomes, and it was like, wow. It's like chick, like if you roll up to another girl with a girl, you literally never get ghosted. Like they'll always hear you out. Like they'll always talk to you. Like,
or even when it comes time, like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom. My girl already knows what to do. She's in the bathroom with her, talking her up, making her feel sexy, like just reinforcing the fact this is a good idea. Whereas as a guy, like I remember when I was younger, oh, I got to go to the bathroom. You're like, I would always wait. It's kind of like on the end of Gladiator, like the Emperor. It's like, all right, he's deliberating, like, are you going to live or die? For me, that's what I'd go through in my head. Like when the girls would go to the bathroom, like, all right, well, she's checking with her console of chicks to see like, is she moving forward with me? Or if not, a lot of times I'm just not going to see her again, or I'll see her an hour or 2 later. Like you figure it out pretty quick when she doesn't come back. She's just making out some other dude at the club. That gets completely eliminated. Like that doesn't happen when you're out with another chick who's like actively gaming with you as a team.
Yeah, club game really is the jungle. Like it's amazing. Like it's like
it's kind of fun.
You could be hitting it off with a chick, like she likes you, she's turned on by you. But if she goes to the bathroom and sees a hotter guy that she likes more, it's over. She's forgotten about you. You're dead.
Or if he has coke, like a lot. When I lived in California, I had a girl one time. My game was already starting to get a bit better right after my divorce. Super hot. She comes up, and I don't remember what I said, but she just like cupped my dick, and then she's like, or she said something like, oh, are you as big everywhere as you are, like stature wise, or because I'm about as wide as I am tall. And she kind of like cupped my dick. I'm like, oh, okay, like I'll bang this girl. But in my head, I was thinking I got to put in investment all night, and then we got to go to the club, and then we'll do this. I'll buy her a couple of drinks, and then I'll take her home. And then like an hour or two later, she disappeared at some point, and then my buddy came. And then he's like, oh, Jay, I just banged this Angela chick. I'm like, and in my head, I'm just like, oh man, I was working on that chick, but I wasn't really working on her. Like, she gave me a very clear IOI. She commented about the size of my dick. Yeah, I banged her in the club because he had coke. And I'm just, so I make that joke on my channel all the time. Like, guys, like you can outgame the guy, but like if he has drugs and the chick wants to get high, then like that's really all the game you need. Like cocaine game that's a whole nother level.
Again, it boils down to like making your move and like as a guy making, do you want to have sex? Then you got to make your move. Like it's just shocking what some girls will do if you're bold enough to make a move and try and like, escalate with them. I mean, a friend of mine,
they'll do it right then and there. Yeah, you mentioned insta-lays.
Yeah, a friend of mine put me on to, he's a promoter in a nightclub, and he put me onto this like secret part of the club, and he's like, he was telling me like this where he takes like chicks, like he just takes them there and bangs them, and I'm like, they come with you, and I wasn't so naive about it, but I was like, in this particular club, I was kind of like, whoa, holy shit, didn't know about that. And the first night he told me, like I went and did it, and it was like, I got a chick and brought her there, I escalated with her and we banged. But it was just like, it's just crazy. It's the same thing with the same day ladies from day game. It's just like, if it's convenient, like you can go ahead and get her digits, and like, she might like you, but like, she's not that into you, and so she doesn't respond, or you never end up meeting her, other things get in the way. But if you make your move and do an insta date, like because it's convenient, because she's having fun, like she'll fuck you on the first day you meet her, maybe even less than an hour after meeting her. Like I've taken girls back to my place less than half an hour after meeting them. Like it's insane.
Yeah, going back to the day game thing. So I mentioned I'm not a huge day gamer, but there was a summer during COVID when we got locked down in California. So my lay rate went way down as compared to my typical volume. And I was usually just keeping girls on retention, like girls that lived in the neighborhood that were convenient. Everything was closed down. No one was working. We're all just getting checks printed to us by the state. So it was an interesting summer. When was that? Summer of 2020. And I had like a hot pink Schwinn beach cruiser. I lived in Mission Beach, California, which is San Diego. It's like right south of Pacific Beach, which is like pretty much a fraternity and sorority. It's like Greek row on the beach. Like they're all young, hot kids that just drink and party and fuck each other all the time. I lived like 4 blocks south of there because I wanted more of a quiet neighborhood. In the morning, I'd get up real early, and then I love my San Diego sunrises and sunsets. So I'd get up whenever the sun came up, ride the pedal bike, like just to kind of clear my head, do some cardio for the morning, get the blood flowing for the day. And I noticed really quickly, like, wow, there's a lot of hot chicks out before 8 a.m. as the sun's coming up, and they're riding bikes or learning how to rollerblade, or they have their volleyball leagues. So there's one day I got a little ballsy. I brought out like a real mild, like I call it like my social sativa, like a little joint, just real mild, not going to knock you off your ass or anything, but just gonna uplift you, make you feel good, a little bit of a euphoria, but you can still hang. And there's this, found out later, she was a Brazilian chick. She was on the bike, and I had a little bell on it, so I'm going, and I do laps between the piers. And I do it for time a lot of times, but then I was doing it kind of leisurely, and I noticed this chick. I saw her a couple of days, and then at one point I kind of bring, and I buzzed her, and I had the joint lit, and I was like, hey, like take a hit of this. She's like, oh, okay. And then so we were riding in tandem, or like next to each other up and down the boardwalk early morning, and just kind of passing the split back and forth, like having a conversation too, like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'm from Brazil. Oh, you studying abroad here? Oh, I came here to study abroad, but COVID locked us down, so now I'm not sure if my student visa is going to activate, and so I'm just enjoying San Diego until I have to go home, if I even can go home, because no one really knew what the hell was going on. And she's like, what are you doing? I was like, yeah, kind of the same situation, just figuring out how to make money on the internet from home. And then she's like, oh, where do you live? I'm like, oh, like literally right here. Logistics is key, right here. And then she's like, oh, and I was like, hey, let's go back to my place, smoke the rest of the spliff. And she's like, all right, I'm down. And literally off the boardwalk turned in, I lived right on the beach, turned into my place, locked up the bikes, went up, and it's like you said, banged her within minutes of meeting her. And then I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, that's really fun. That was my first bicycle bang. I did that a few times that summer, and that became one of my original posts in Rich Cooper's Top 1% group was about that, like my bicycle game. And guys would kind of laugh about it, but I'm like, hey, I recognized an opportunity. I took my shot. It worked. And then I was able to replicate that process. So you certainly can do things like that.
And you mentioned like innocent, girls that are, innocent girls earlier, and it's like guys think, oh, if a girl does that, she's a hoe, and it's not true. Like those girls that you think are so innocent, they're just as capable of doing something like that as well. It's just like if it's in the right moment, the right time, you're the
The
right
right
guy.
guy.
It's like it's just insane what you can do, and that's one of the fun things about day game is like you can make like you can have sex in situations that even at times like you had sex before midday, like
Before
in
8
a
a.m.
yeah
Like
before 8 a.m.
I've
and
got
it's
a
like,
I've got a morning lay coming over tomorrow. She's like, hey, does 9 a.m. work for you? She's from a different part of town. She's coming in. The Mexico City's the federal capital, and I get these girls every now and then. Hey, I'm coming into town. I have like a work thing, but I don't have to be there till like a lunch in the afternoon. I'll stop by your place at 9 a.m. Like, all right. She going back to what we were talking about earlier, she could have a boyfriend, she could be married, she could be whatever, but in her mind, she's getting on an airplane, she's coming to Mexico City, probably some like milestone in her career, she's like doing some federal government type stuff, and then here's this gringo living in like this in this nice high rise in the nicest part of town. Like, why not? Like, she'll go ahead and include that into her schedule if you set it up right,
yeah.
if you present that offer correctly, and if you can add to her story. Like, she's probably already pretty excited, or it could be the opposite. Maybe she's like, oh shit, I have to go to Mexico City again, it's such a pain in the ass, like might as well get a lay in the morning. You don't know what's going through her head, but I think a lot of guys strike out because they have these hard rules, which I did with this chick Angela in the club. Like, oh, she cut my dick. Like, all right, I'll play it cool, and at the end of the night, I'll take her home. No, she was ready to go right then and there, and I didn't make my move.
Yeah. One of the reasons I really disliked living that I didn't want to go back to Ireland is that, like, in Ireland there's this really autistic vibe about alcohol and with
Oh, really?
dating, and people think that you can't have sex in any other situation other than nighttime and drinks, and it's just fucking sick.
I hate drunken sex.
Yeah,
Like,
it's nasty, man.
guys, if you want to develop your game skills, sober game. Like, once you can get sober game down, then you're solid. And when I go out, I've screwed this up on some of Rich Cooper's meetups where I have multiple opportunities, but I drink a little too much, and all of a sudden I wake up, I'm like, hey, where's that chick Sarah I pulled? And then like the rolling blackouts come
Right.
back, like, oh, I literally had her out front of my hotel. I was so drunk I couldn't say a word. It's like, okay, bye. And then I go upstairs like an idiot. Because
Yeah.
I normally don't drink a lot, but when I go out with the guys, I'll throw them back.
Mm.
But when I'm out by myself, again, I'm more of a pot smoker, so I'll take a blip or two of like a real social sativa, maybe, and then maybe get like a good high quality whiskey or mezcal, and just kind of sip on it as the night goes on. I'll have like 2 or 3 drinks the whole night. But if I'm throwing them back or doing shots, my game, it just becomes trash. I can still pull, but usually the girl's trash or she is trashed, and it's just a mess. It's just not any fun.
I mean, I remember trying to tell an old friend of mine, completely blue pill. He was telling me he's having trouble sealing the deal, and I was like, he was telling me how he takes these girls out for drinks and dinner and all this stuff, and I was like, isn't there a Starbucks near your place? And he said, yeah, why? I was like, well, why aren't you inviting them like to the Starbucks, which is literally 2 doors down from your place, from your apartment? He was like, what do you mean? Like, there's no alcohol in, like, he said this seriously, like he wasn't even trying to be funny. He was like,
The
well,
Irish
there's
coffee.
like what do you mean? Like that's a coffee shop. How is she gonna come to like, so blue? He says zero game. It was so like, and I give up with people like this, because especially when if they're willing to listen, like, that's what, like, I'll tell them. But if they're trying to argue with you, like trying to tell me that my rationale is flawed, like it's not gonna work, and it's like, it's so dumb. Like, it's like, and most guys are like that. They're like, oh, you can't have sex during the daytime. You can't. She's going to be suspicious if I invite her to a start. I'm like,
I used
idiot.
to think like that, but you're shooting yourself
Yeah.
in the foot. You're holding yourself back. Again,
Right.
I don't, even on the dating apps, like I said, that's my primary lead source, but like, I'm not checking my phone all day. I'm doing stuff. After this, I'll go to the gym, and then I have another call, and then I have my own stream. And then, like, I've got a pretty booked day. I've actually got 3 girls lined up. I think one of them flaked, but one of them last night I screwed up because I was on a podcast. We didn't do the comfort, like the text back and forth. There's usually kind of a cadence to it. So she's like, oh, where do you live? I thought that she was still prospecting, like she needed to still be sold on it. Like, oh, I live in this neighborhood. Well, what's the exact address? I'm like, okay, well, here's the address. Usually it's like, okay, I'm on my way. I'll be there next amount of minutes. Or, oh, can you get me an Uber? Like there's usually still some more conversation left in the strain. Well, I got on a podcast, got into it, and then got off, turned my phone, looked at my phone again. And then this girl's like, hey, I'm out front of your house. Like, where are you? Where are you? Like, there wasn't any back and forth. Like, okay, we confirm you're coming over. I'm coming over now. I thought she was still prospecting. Like, hey, where do you live? What area? Like, oh, like, well, here's the address. Just punch into your Google to show her it's a really good area. And then I had like a bunch of missed texts, like, hey, I'm outside your house. So I'm going to try to fill her into tonight's slot. So one of the girls flaked, but again, the way I structure my day. So Sundays in Mexico, they're like family days. So Sundays, like you're not going to like, unless it's another foreigner girl or if a girl's in town over the weekend and she's staying with me, I usually like girls coming in like later Friday and then staying with me till Sunday and then going back to her hometown because domestic travel is real cheap here. Because the weekends are real tough. Friday and Saturday, everyone wants to go out. Sunday, they're all hungover and it's family day. So Sunday is where like I'll do Sunday evening is where like I'll line up my week because all these girls, family time's over. They're getting back in the Monday mindset and they're structuring their week. So that's when I schedule and book out my week. So like I think I had like 3 girls playing today. One of them flaked, but another one I'll kick into tonight's slot. I'm expecting another one to flake, but you're able to do this stuff. So you don't have to constantly be on the prowl when you have a somewhat of a structure to it. But even then, I still keep my eyes open. I'm not actively looking, but I keep my eyes open, and then I look at the opportunities that are out there. But if I had this mindset like your buddy, like, and I used to, I remember when I first started getting better at game. I remember the mystery method rule is like 7 hours of face-to-face contact time. That could be over 3 dates. That could be 3 mini dates in one evening. And then I got to a point where like, okay, well, I don't need to do 3 separate dates. So at first I'd get laid always on the 3rd date or between the 3rd and 5th date. I'm like, all right, let's streamline that. Then I started getting late on the 3rd date. Then I was like, okay, I got late on the 2nd date. The first date was like a coffee, and then second date closer to my house, maybe like a dinner, and then pull her, bring her upstairs. Had the pull excuse, either like, oh, I give good back massages, or I can cook this healthy dessert really well, or I do vinyl records, I play guitar, like whatever excuse to pull her. And then I cut out that step. Like, okay, well, now we're doing the first date. We can do 3 mini dates. But in my head, it was always, it's got to be hour seven. And as it turns out, I believe that at about hour 7 is when I'd start banging the chick. I'm like, okay, well, is it because that's a real hard rule, or is that because those are limits I'm placing on myself? So then I got I kind of do this in my career too. Like, how do we eliminate steps? How do we streamline the process to the point where like, okay, well, we can do coffee date first, and then she come to my house. It was literally like not even that long ago, like last summer, I think it was, where there's like 3 girls in the row. We'd meet up for the coffee date, and they're like, hey, no, I'm good. Actually, it's kind of later. I don't want coffee. I don't want to be up tonight. Like, let's just go to your place. So I just eliminated that step too. And then running the volume model, I put my offer right in my online dating profile. Like, hey, fun fit guy looking for a cool chick for 420 snacks and snuggles, pointing to my Instagram. And a lot of them are inbound, and they say in Spanish, "Halo," like I'm in, I'm down. There's like, yeah, like raise their hand. I'm in. Like, I don't even have to do anything. Like that's my entire game, is setting up a system that they just kind of run themselves through. So the main point I'm trying to get at is, guys, if you're limited in your thinking that like, oh, I have to take this girl out X amount of times, or like this is the way things need to be done, then you're going to miss so many opportunities, because a lot of girls are insecure, I'd say as much, if not more than guys, to where it's like, hey, this is date 5. This dude hasn't tried to screw me yet. Like, is he gay? Is he wasting my time? Is he weird? Does he not know what he's doing? And you will let him down. So you gotta make it from the get-go known that you fall in the category of the guy that's going to be having some physical fun with her, and then start to eliminate some of those rules in your head, because they're really getting in your way.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Like, I mean, I can remember when I used to think like that myself. I remember I had a friend of mine back in Ireland that told me he ran some day game, and it was the first time I ever heard of it. And I genuinely like disbelieved him. I just didn't believe him. Like, I thought he was talking shit. I didn't. But that's just how naive I was at the time, and because in Ireland we just have such a drinking culture that I couldn't comprehend that he picked up women during the daytime and slept with them. It just didn't make sense to me. But it's an ideal way to pick up women. Let's see. It's an ideal way to pick up stream running there. Dark Knight says, hey fellas, I have a disability. Do you have any students who have been able to overcome their disability with pickup? I have MS. I mean, it's personally, I haven't had haven't had guys with disabilities, but I mean, it depends on what the disability is. Sorry, I'm not even familiar
Yeah,
with what MS
that's
is.
multiple. I think it's
Oh,
multiple
multiple
sclerosis.
sclerosis. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
multiple sclerosis. Yeah, I mean, do you want to handle that?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I do some coaching, and every now and then we touch on the dating topics, but usually it's more of like a lifestyle type thing. The guys reach out to me, like, "Hey, man, I'm 100 pounds overweight. I'm smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. I'm depressed. Like, how did you overcome that?" To like, they're still a long way from getting into the dating topics. I do have some older gentlemen that'll reach out, like, "Hey, I'm recently divorced. I'm back on the market. Like, teach me this online stuff. Like, how do I take good photos? Like how do I connect my socials? Like how do I build the digital presence? Because that's what I do in my corporate professional life, is like digital marketing consultant. So I haven't come across this too much. I know the only experience I have, I've got a younger brother. He's a Marine, and he was wounded in combat, and he was in a coma for 3 months. And it took him about a year. Like when he woke up, like he could barely move his fingers, and then he had to like do the hand exercises. And I remember like he was jacked. He put me to shame when he joined the Marines, and he couldn't even bicep curl an empty water bottle. So I was living in Texas at the time. He came and stayed with me for a bit, and I was going through a divorce. So we kind of helped each other out through like some tough times in our life. But for him, I think the big thing was getting over the mindset. Like he had convinced himself that he is less than what he was before his accident. Cause he did, like he can't be as jacked as he used to be. He had to get a liver and a couple other organs replaced. And, he's on like transplant medication and a whole new diet. So he had to like drastically change his lifestyle. But the mental block, again, going back to kind of that previous point I made, was he had convinced himself he's less than worthy because he's not like Mr. America jacked as fuck Marine anymore. He's just a regular guy. But so I had to kind of help work him through that process as far as like, okay, you have a lifestyle change now, maybe your identity changed a bit. That doesn't take away the fact that like you still have your shit together, that you still know how to get girls, that you're still desirable. And then I think watching that mindset shift in him, and then physically he came back. Like he's in real good shape now. He does like my fucking brother. Like he can run like 100-mile marathons, run like 4-minute miles, and then bench press 500 pounds. Like he's one of those genetic freaks. I didn't get. He got dealt all of the good genetic hands. I didn't get that. I'm just kind of like somewhere in the middle in my family. But the main point is that we really had to work on his mindset there. So I know that MS, I'm not sure what stage you are in that condition, disease, ailment, whatever word you give it. But I have heard of guys in the space saying that they do have students that have had success, and it's really just about owning it. Just like, yeah, like lead with it. Maybe like when I'm looking for new corporate clients, I lead with the fact I have a channel. I live in Mexico. Here's what I'm about. If that's going to be an issue, then say no right now. I don't want to wait 3 to 5 interviews to find out that, oh, hey, this is a red flag. You're not going to have like a guy on me on board. So, again, I personally don't have any experience with this outside of like my brother kind of getting him to overcome that mindset. I'm not sure exactly what your situation is in terms of like the progression of the condition, but really, I'd say probably just own it. Years ago, if you remember, there's that comedian Josh Blue. Like he came on open mic, like I think he had cerebral palsy, if I'm not mistaken, but he owned it. Like his first like Comedy Central little 5-minute quick set was just him making fun of the disease and like the implications it has for his life. But he was larger than life, and he went on to become very, very big. So if anyone has any better advice, definitely let us know down in the comments, reach out or whatever. I don't have too much experience with that, but that would be where I'd start.
Yeah, I like the suggestion of owning it and like because just becoming the best version of yourself and not letting it hold you back, because you can only deal with the disability the best you can, and then just go from there.
Like if I were writing an online dating profile, and I like, for example, I don't know if you're in a wheelchair, like I think it's a degenerative disease, so I'm not sure where you're at, but let's say, for example, you're in a wheelchair, like I'd probably do something smart ass, like in my profile description, like, hey, like benefits of dating me, like free fast pass everywhere you go, like no need to wait in line, like you always have a place to rest your feet, like, and just be funny about it, just be over the top and own it.
Like if you can be comfortable with it, definitely if you're comfortable with it, I think it can only benefit you.
One last thing, mindset wise, stop telling yourself it's a condition or it's an ailment or it's a handicap. I hate that word handicap. Treat it like a superpower. So like, okay, like obviously there's some disadvantages, but what are the advantages of having it? They may be few and far in between, but like identify those few, even if they're ridiculous. Like I said, like free fast pass lines wherever the hell you go, and then blow that up. I think that would probably be the angle to take. And that's more of like just a marketing PR advertising thing. You downplay the negatives and accentuate the positives.
Sounds good.
Oh, Speed Life Financial. So guys that are in Rich Cooper's content circle, I do a lot of collaboration with my buddy Moff. So we're both working on getting out of corporate America. I'm kind of one foot in, 1 foot out. I've got my budget down to a point where it's relatively minimal, so I don't need a lot of money to get ahead, but I like making money. So I still get back into the corporate scheme of things every now and then, but Moff is kind of in the same place. He's a sales guy. I think he works for a software as a service startup doing enterprise level sales. And he's like, hey, like, I don't like the woke shit. I don't want to do the corporate thing. I don't want my income depend on someone else that has power over me. So he's making the push too, taking what he knows. I'm a digital marketer. He's a sales guy. So he's building his own sales team. They're going to sell like life insurance policies. It looks like there's pretty good commission there, and he's making that plunge professionally. And obviously he's my buddy, so I'm like, hey man, I'll go ahead and post on my socials because I've built like call centers and stuff before. I'm not a sales guy by trade, but like working in marketing, like there's a lot of overlap, or there's areas where I'll put together the technical stack and then I'll come in and like show the sales team how to use the systems, how to log stuff into CRM, like what the cadence looks like. I'm a process improvement person, kind of the way my mind works, that carries over to my professional life. So I just punched that out on my socials saying like, hey, my buddy Moff's he's starting this new sales team. It could be a solid opportunity for guys that want like the location independence type lifestyle. These are the type of opportunities for that. A lot of guys call in on podcasts I go on with my buddies, or they'll ask me on my channel like, hey, I don't want to live in the US anymore. What do I do work wise? And especially guys that don't have a lot of skills, or maybe they're younger, I'm like, hey, like, don't rule out sales. Like, it sucks ass at first. I've had sales roles where I'm making like minimum 200 outbound calls a day. 97% of people tell you to F off, but guess what? Like, true story, I actually did have a job like that for a while, but I was still on the leaderboard because I didn't focus on all the FU, why you call them, you get out of here. You only needed those 3 out of 100 that would convert. And if there's a good commission rate or like good payout structure, then you can make some serious cash very quickly. So that's what that is. It's just, I don't have a lot more information from him. I haven't spoken with him one-on-one. We do a lot of public collaborations, but like one-on-one in person, I haven't spoken with him in a while, as far as what entirely that entails. But to me, it looks like it's just an outbound sales role, or an outside sales role. And if you're good at that, or if you're coachable and you're good with people, you're able to converse with people, you're able to overcome objections. If someone tells you to F off, it's not going to ruin your day, then you can make a lot of money in sales. And it doesn't really matter what you're selling. What you want to look at is that compensation structure, the commission structure. So that's what that is.
Indeed.
Life insurance sales position.
Cool. Good stuff. Speaking of sales, sex is sales. So if you're a good salesman, you should be getting laid. Vice versa. So
I've noticed with my buddies that are good at sales, because I'll notice things and I'll try to reverse engineer it, and I'll watch them like, what makes them really good at sales? I'm like, oh, they're good with people. Like, they just make people feel good about themselves. And you're not even really selling a product, you're selling yourself. If someone feels good in your presence, then they really will fall under your spell, and you can kind of have control over them. I know it sounds a little more dark and nefarious than it really is, but really it's just about developing people skills. So if you naturally innately have good people skills, you should be good at game, and you'll probably be really good at sales too.
Yeah. And some guys are very good at like selling themselves to women, very good at getting them on dates, but they're very poor at escalating and getting them to actually to seal a deal. So there is a bit more to it than just like, making people feel good. You have to be willing to push forward and escalate with them and know how to escalate.
I see these guys a lot. They talk a big game, and then like they get the girl over, and it's just kind of, what now? What do we do? So yeah, you always have to be aware of pushing things into new territory.
Chicks will punish some guys. I mean, if you don't make a move, like they'll punish you by just not meeting you again. Like, I mean, some chicks are like legitimately down to fuck, like straight up, like they're if they like you and they're enjoying the date, they're really open to getting fucked. And if you don't like take it there, she'll be like, she'll be like, she might be thinking, okay, I might meet this guy again, but some other guy comes along and lays pipe
Yep.
before you, and then it's like, you lose your space. And
I
I think
mean,
that's a big reason why a lot of guys like don't get a second or third date. Like it's
yep.
not necessarily that girl didn't have a good time. She might have actually enjoyed herself, but just some guy that is also dating her wasn't pussyfooting around making a move, and he took her home after.
Well, that's why I get them to the house on the first date, or I go for first date lays. Every now and then, if the girl's more conservative, we'll meet up. But the fact that she met up usually means I can close her. Obviously, it's somewhere nearby, logistically suitable, that's in my favor. But I really go for the first date lay because sex is the last bastion of masculinity. So if you can make her feel these feel good emotions, she gets excited. She's texting, "Oh, I'm going to go to meet this guy, Jaron. Oh, he lives in this really cool place. Oh, wow. I'm quite unlike any other guys in the local market, and that's good. I use that to my advantage. I create that mystique, that intrigue. She comes over, and then not only does she come over, and a lot of times the girls come over and they're really nervous. Like when a girl says, "Oh, I've never done this before," yeah, usually they're lying, but a lot of times like they've never done this before. You can tell like they're kind of closed off. They'll sit on the complete other side of the couch. I'll like reach my hand out and start doing the fingertip thing, and then we'll go like that, and then we'll go like that, and then so sometimes I do have to go slower. But at the end of the night, by the time we're both laying there in a pool of our own sweat, just huffing and puffing, and her body's done things that she didn't know it could do, and liquids that come out of it that she didn't know was possible, and she made noises that she's like, "Oh shit, I hope your neighbors didn't hear us." Well, guess what? Like that girl's mine. Like I've got her. I've locked her in. Like I've given her a multitude of experiences in whatever finite time window that she's never had before. That's why I go for like the same night lays, because that makes it unequivocal in her head that like, oh yeah, like this guy is legit. Or I always say, I tell my followers, I like leaving the girl with like, who the fuck is this guy? And it could be a good thing or a bad thing. Like if the girl's a bitch, then she's like, oh, who the fuck is this guy? Like, okay, I don't care. I'm not gonna, I'm not interested in her anyways, which a lot of times those girls will come around. They're like hate hook up with you, which is really funny. But in general, you want to be the guy that like pushes her into new territory. I think if you can own her sexually, then you own her 100% outright, in the sense owning, like obviously like not like slavery type stuff. I know there's weirdos that follow some of these channels, but owning in the sense that you're on the top of her mind all the time, that no one else quite compares to you, and you have her under your spell. And sex is a powerful tool for that. I think a lot of guys in this space are like, oh, it's all about getting the lay count, the notch count up, or like just sex. For me, I like to get the girl. So sex is just a tool amongst many other tools that get there. And if you employ it successfully earlier rather than later and just blow her mind, then you got her. She's yours.
Yeah, you need to lay a good pipe. It's definitely, there's no way around it. I do think though, if like chicks do not appreciate sex as much as guys though. So like it doesn't matter if your sex is fire and you lay amazing pipe. Like if you don't have other aspects of your life like that are impressive to her, she's not necessarily going to stick around just because of the sex. I mean, it's like, however, girls do stick around sometimes if your other aspects of your life, such as your social life and your financial life, is good and the sex is all right. They'll tend to stick around more so in those situations, in my opinion. And it's also age dependent as well. Like younger girls will be more likely to, like 18 to 22 would be more likely to just stick around just for the sex, even if your like finances are shit, or and you live in a shithole or whatever. But older chicks, not so much. I think they're going to be like, late 20s. They're going to be like, okay, he's good in bed, but I don't see this guy going anywhere. And I'm not.
She's been there, done that. And she wants something else. Yeah. I agree with that. The younger chicks, it's like, oh my God, I'm dating this really hot foreigner who speaks Spanish and he lives in this really good neighborhood and he has a big ass TV. And like, I eat really good food. I track my food sources. I eat very high quality food.
So taking all the boxes, basically.
Yeah. If it's a poor college chick, like I told stories earlier when I was 20, like didn't live the type of lifestyle I did. I could still get laid. It's like hot young 20-year-old college chick. She's like like obviously coming and staying the night at my place, and a lot of them like to stay the night. Staying the night at my place is way more comfortable than her place. Like everything, like every single detail of my life is better than what she's accustomed to. So
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, I can get by with less. But like the chicks that are more seasoned dating wise, I found out if I don't take them out by date 3, then they usually fall off because they're like, oh, like I don't want to like just be this guy's fuck toy. Like I want to be seen with him and go out and watch him in social interactions and have more experiences outside the bedroom.
They want to, girls really, in reality, they need to do, you need to do things with them if you want to keep them around, like, you know, like certainly long term. But just actually, I just want to ask you, like, what's with like Tulum? I see a lot of like models and stuff from Japan going to Tulum. What is
you know
like,
what? I'm not sure. Years ago when I lived here, Tulum like had really cool ruins, and that's where people would go. Like if you're going to Cancun, but you get off the beaten path, it has like natural beauty and it's really cool. I've noticed, so it's changed over the years. Like back when I was in school, I went through there before. It's just like, oh, kind of a sleepy little town, like some cool experiences, like really pretty in nature and green and all that stuff. But I've noticed lately that's turned into a hot spot where a lot of expats and gringos go. Although be careful there, because I've heard like I speak Spanish and most of my friends in Mexico are actually Mexican. They're not like expats. So I've heard from a lot of Mexicans that like, hey, like Tulum, like there's a lot of kidnappings there. It's getting dangerous because, you know, people that have bad intentions are like, oh, well, here's all these naive expats or foreigners going here. It's like the hot spot where everyone's moving to. So I've just noticed like in like some of the entrepreneurial circles, like the nomad capitalist type circles, the minimalist mindset type circles, some of these other adjacent digital spaces I follow, that Tulum is like the place where everyone's going, but it also draws attention to there. So I'm assuming that the Japanese girls are falling into that too. Like a lot of guys with money, CEO type guys are retiring. They're going to Tulum and just buying these, you know, nice places and living the tropical lifestyle.
Yeah, I just see some of these insta thoughts going to Tulum and whatnot from Japan.
I always recommend, if you guys want a geomax, go to a city where girls maybe are more receptive to foreigners. But if it's oversaturated with foreigners, then you're going to have the same problem you did back at home, if not more, because you're attracting a self-selecting group of foreigners that are going there. Like it takes some money to go and buy a house in like in the Yucatan Peninsula or on the Caribbean somewhere. Whereas in your hometown, you know, you have just a lot of your average dudes you're competing with. You will have those alpha player types, but you're competing with other dudes. If you go like Cancun spring break, you're going to get higher competition there. So it's really about being market specific. Mexico City's good for me. There's a lot of foreigners here, but they're normal people. They're from all walks of life. There's not like a specific type of foreigner that comes here. So I do really well. But even smaller towns, like I like Guadalajara a lot. Not nearly as much foreigners. The girls are more attractive and it's much more conservative. So it might take me a little longer to get LA, but the quality is just way, way higher. So it's really about what you're looking for, what you want.
Right. Yeah, it is what it is. Says, I realize living in a small town is the main reason why it's hard for me. Looking for the location independence as well, to move to the big city for an easier time. Man, location is absolutely everything. I mean, if you're living in a small town, there's just not that much opportunity to find chicks. It's like a fisherman doesn't go fishing in a spot where there's not many fish. You know, it's like, you know, that's what I was saying earlier in the episode, that, you know, that's one of the reasons why I really enjoy living in Japan, is just the sheer, especially Tokyo, is just like the sheer abundance of insanely fashionable, sexy, cute, like feminine, like hot girls that it's just like, there's just no comparison in Ireland. Like you cannot find that. And they're just, even numbers wise, it's just insane. So it's like, it's a really good, like in your early 20s, in your 30s even, like it's just, I just think men should be in spots where there's enough, at least there's opportunity to meet women, you know, enough, you know, the best you can kind of hope for in smaller towns is to find a girlfriend. It's just really hard to run game in small towns. Like it's hard to do.
Last time I was home, I went out with my brother, the former Marine and former stripper and bodybuilder. So he's always done really well with women. He's back on his game. His mindset's right. So like he's cruising through chicks again, like the accident never even happened. But we went out it was, I usually only go home for holidays. So it must have been around Christmas, maybe between like Christmas and New Year time frame. Went out, it was like a Tuesday night. Everyone's off work. Went to like one of the 3 small hometown bars. Met a couple of girls I didn't know, because in a small town, you know everyone. Or if they don't know me, they know one of my cousins. They know someone in my family. They know about me. So met a couple of girls and started asking them, like, hey, what's your deal? What do you do? Oh, moved here like my second year of high school. They're like 10 years younger than me. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, what? Oh, I'm community college, or I'm like an assistant for like a chiropractor, or like as I'm asking them, trying to vet them, like they're nowhere near me at all at any level in life. I've never left the hometown. Like, maybe I'll go to Seattle someday. It's like a 3-hour drive away from where I grew up. I'm like, okay, like I left the country when I was 18 and went and played ball abroad and traveled like most of Latin America in that time frame. So like we're just not on the same level. But and the girl's like probably like a 5'5", 6 at best, because there's just no other options in these smaller type towns. And for me, it got to the point, like my brother was trying to game the chicks, and at one point, the chicks went to the bar to buy us drinks. And at that point, I told my brother, I was like, dude, let's get out of here. Like, these chicks aren't even worth it. Like, so much work, so much effort. Like, but in the back of my head, a week earlier, I was banging a telenovela model in Mexico City. I went to like a red carpet type event. A good friend of mine is a producer for one of the major like production companies here. She's like, hey, like I have this new Venezuelan model. She needs a date, and I know a lot of the guys in the room already. She's like, hey, do you want to escort her to this red carpet event? I'm like, yeah, sure. And then ended up having a good time with her. Just absolutely gorgeous. Fast forward a week later, that's like 5.5, 6 at best on her best day, is giving me the runaround. She's like she's like an assistant for a massage therapist. I was gonna ask, do you have that same experience when you go home? Because I'm at the point now, like I don't even really try when I go home. Like I just don't put myself out there.
Well, it's all about the kind of environment. Yeah, I mean, it's like it's small town kind of mentality. I mean, well, chicks, even I mean, we've all seen those kind of dating app experiments where the girl is like a 2, or even girls without even any pictures. Like, it's insane. Like, girls without any even no pictures get bombarded with messages. So it's like, that's how thirsty guys are. So even girls that are like a 4 out of 10, a 3 out of 10, like, the interesting thing is, like, you could be a solid guy, like a 6, 7, 8 out of 6, 7, 8 out of 10. Who knows? If you're not her type, she could still reject you. That's the difference. That's the extreme difference between men and women. The opposite would just never occur. Like a 3 out of 10 would never in any world reject an 8 out of 10 guy. But I mean, these kind of scenarios can happen when you switch to genders, like chicks will reject guys, and they do all the time, that are way out of their league. I mean, it happens all the time, especially, and to be honest, it's one of the reasons I don't really enjoy using dating apps, is because you just like, it's just ridiculous. But and in day game, obviously, I only approach girls that are hot, like, so that are certainly my type. But it's just crazy, this small town mentality. Yeah, it's different. When you gotta move to somewhere, like when you're in your prime, and as a man, like, listen, man, I'm sure you'd agree, Jared, like like, sex just makes life a lot more. It's not the only aspect of life, but it's certainly, when you're getting laid a lot with very beautiful, sexy women, it just makes life a lot more enjoyable. Like,
I agree. I have guys, and Mac, you probably get this too, guys. Like, well, it's not all about sex. Like, you must spend a lot of time on this. The funny thing is, I don't. The less time I spend on it, the higher my lay count goes, and like, it's exponential. So I build these chicks into my day. I think one of the chick was in a flake earlier. She texted me this morning. Oh, hey, can you come to my apartment instead? I have like a migraine headache last night. I really want to see you, but I'm just not feeling well. But I'm willing to make it happen. It's like, okay, well, Mexico City is a big city. It's gonna be an hour and a half for me to get there and an hour and a half back, and I have you for a 3-hour block. So I'll just punt you to another day. Why? Because I have 3-hour potential blocks that are floating around my schedule. But from the moment I wake up until about usually between 3 and 6 p.m. my time, I'm just on. Every minute is accounted for. I'm fucking grinding. Like, I got to squeeze the gym in at some point. Just call after call. Maybe some like a creative work block during the later afternoon, so I can like actually like get some work done, some deep level work. And then once like in mentally like my cutoff point approaches, it's nice to just have a cute girl who's like chipper and super happy to see me walk in the door, like ready to cook dinner, rub my back, rub my feet, like blow me and blow my mind. And it's a great way to end the day. And like, yeah, I can go without it. I think, yeah, last night I told the story, like that girl, turns out she was here, but I was like getting really into a podcast I was on and just completely missed it. So I didn't get laid last night, but just knowing that like that's the way you're going to end your day, like a job well done, pat on the back, and you know it's brought to you in the form of like an eager, enthusiastic chick coming over to bang you. That's a great detail in your life as a guy to have.
Absolutely. And if you're not, if you're missing out on that in the prime years of your life, it sucks, to be honest. Like, it's just like, it's important to, experience these things while you're young and healthy and able to. So yeah, I think if you're not able to get chicks where you're at, and it's not because of you, it's just difficult because of the environment you're in. You should move to somewhere where there's more where there's better hunting grounds. But yeah, man, we've been going for an hour.
Yeah, we've been going for a bit.
So yeah, but it was good, man. It was definitely good to have you on. I enjoyed the conversation. But you want to tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, the easiest place to find me is Instagram at Jaren Scott. That's JarenScott. For those of you that are just listening passively, JarenScott. On Instagram, I do all sorts of stuff. I'm involved in a couple of private groups. I have one of my own that I launched with Rich Cooper, my buddy Moff, and Renegade Wingman. It's top 10%. It's $9.97 lifetime membership fee. If eventually you want to get into a higher tier group, we'll roll that payment forward. That gives you access to weekly webinars and workshops. We do a lot of live meetups, and then you get 20% discount on any of our coaching or premium digital type products. So that's the best way. Like if you want to take it a step deeper, like I mentioned these frameworks and these systems and these structures. I'm an academic. I'm a nerd through and through. I work for Big Four corporate companies and help them rework their processes. So I just apply that to like every aspect of my life. It's a lot easier. It's just the way my brain works. So I'm just scratching the tip of the iceberg. If you want to get more into that and then meet more guys that are like that, that's where you do it. It's top 10% group. I do some one-on-one coaching, but I'd rather just get in the group since a lot of my coaching calls, it's like the same things we're working on, but that's definitely an option too. Whatever you need, any collaboration type activities. If you have like any topics, any asks or whatever, I'm looking for new content ideas as I'm putting more energy in my channel and trying to treat it like a business rather than more of just like a passive hobby as I was doing before. So any of that type of stuff, guys, if you like anything I say, anything you disagree with, or just want to get to know more about me, come up with some opportunities to like collab or do whatever together, whatever it is. Instagram at Jaren Scott's the easiest way to get in touch with me. Just DM me and then let me know what you're up to. Oh, and I have a channel too. Instagram at Jaren Scott. Click on my channel, subscribe, ring the notification bell, like videos, all that good stuff. The big thing is watch time. So if you watch a video, let it pull on through, leave comments, like give me these engagement triggers. That's like Mac, you probably see too. Like we don't get a lot of help in the algorithms with some of these topics, but if we get guys behind us that, we're giving you value, like we've given you almost 2 hours of value here. These stories we're sharing, this is like 15, almost 20 years of me going through this stuff. And Mac, it's probably the same for you. Like taking the losses, learning the lessons learned, like improving your mental framework, leveling up. So we're giving you a lot of value here. Show us some love. And you don't even have to give us money. Like just subscribe to the channel, leave comments, like the videos, watch the videos all the way through, share them with your friends that they might help out with. And like I said, if you ever want to collab or come on or anything, that's great too. But there's a link to that at my Instagram profile. So click on the channel, subscribe, turn on the notifications, and you have to set your account settings to receive all notifications to actually get them. Because a lot of times these topics get throttled. And that's my spiel. That's where you can find me.
Absolutely. Good advice indeed. So thank you for watching. Check out my Instagram stories. I've been taking a break from live streaming for a while. I was just like doing other things, but I'm going to be back doing it at least once or twice a week. I usually share on my Instagram stories when I'm going to be doing that. So follow me on Instagram at Mac the Day Gamer. And check out, I kind of updated some things on my website as well. You can check out macthedaygamer.com. I just did refreshed it today actually. But so until next time, guys, peace out. Bye-bye.
Yep. Cheers.